Ja Morant is getting traded. Ja Morant is maybe getting traded from the Memphis Grizzlies. It's not like really clear like how substantiated those rumors are, how unhappy he actually is. He's kind of pissed right now. I think we can all see that, him pouting on the sidelines, just generally not being very involved in this team, low-key throwing shade at his coach, getting suspended for like misconduct because of, you know, shitting on his coach in the media. So there's a lot of rumors with Ja Morant right now. That's kind of been the flavor of the week. I don't necessarily think he's gonna get traded. I would probably say the odds are like 20% or less that Ja Morant ends up on a different team by the end of this year. Not because the Grizzlies can't get nothing in return, not because nobody wants Ja Morant, but I just don't really think it makes sense for Memphis. They've got a pretty decent timeline around him. They're starting to put together some pieces again. Now that they've got Coward, they've still got Jaren Jackson. They've got a new coach that they seem committed to at least. They've got those three things that they're committed to. If they could just get Ja to buy in again, I think they'd still have a pretty stable infrastructure. They've got to get back their defensive identity in a real way, and Ja has to just start playing better. He's just got to start, just something about him, just the combination of injuries and the jump shot not coming along, it just hasn't worked for him the last few years. And I think in order for Memphis to sort of get back ahead of things, they need him to just they just need him to be better, and they need him to stop doing like dumb knucklehead shit like this. But in this video, I am going to discuss some teams that I think could trade for Ja Morant. I went through every single team in the NBA, and these were the teams that I think could actually do it. I'm going to start with the least likely team to trade for him, and then go to my favorite trade for him. None of them are amazing. Some of them are, the value of Ja Morant is also so confusing. I have no idea what he's worth. He's a good player. He's still like an all-star caliber point guard, and he's entering his prime, so that's got to be factored. Paired with the injuries and the attitude problems, like, it's not the easiest fit in the world. Also, the fact that he can't shoot kind of like fucks up everything low-key. But there are some teams that could make it work, so let's talk about it. If you guys like this video, make sure to like and subscribe. I'm trying to hit 500 subscribers. I'm trying to hit 500. Holy fuck! I'm trying to hit 500 subscribers very soon, so every subscriber, every like, every share, whatever, really helps. Go check out all the stuff in the description. Let's just get into this one. I think the worst team that could probably trade for Ja Morant, that seems not inconceivable to me, is gotta be the New Orleans Pelicans. The only reason I'm putting the Pelicans on this list at all is because this front office is so dumb, is so bad at their job, that this seems like totally reasonable and totally plausible for Joe Dumars and Troy Weaver to pull off. Troy Weaver turned the Detroit Pistons, who were a joke in the middle of the Eastern Conference, into the biggest joke in the NBA for like 5 years. They like hit all-time rock bottoms, got a pickaxe, and started digging while he was their GM. Joe Dumars is also bad at his job and will trade for every center. Actually, both of them are obsessed with centers, so maybe it's weird that they'd be trading for a point guard at all. But both of them are bad at their jobs, so this is totally conceivable. And the package is like not that hard for them to pull off either. It's just the DeJounte Murray salary filler, Jeremiah Fears, and I guess picks. Is Fears plus picks plus Murray too much? I think Fears plus Murray is like plenty for Ja Morant. DeJounte Murray is still not a dead asset in my opinion. We'll see what he looks like when he comes back, but he should be like 80% of old DeJounte Murray at least. And I think Jeremiah Fears is going to be a star one day, so we'll see if he can realize that potential in Memphis. I totally think he would and will if this happens. Honestly, I think Ja Morant's a horrible fit on the Pelicans. I don't like the fit between him and Zion at all. That looks like completely gross. It would have been fun in 2019, but we're in 2026, and between the two of them, I think they've won one playoff series. So I don't want to see this one. Trade Zion. Don't trade for Ja Morant. Let's go the other way. Let's build around Fears. Let's build around Queen. Let's build around the wings. Don't try to make this Zion thing work with like a 5th different point guard. It's over. Okay? I'm sorry. It's done. The Portland Trail Blazers are my next team, and this was a team that I actually kind of liked for Ja initially. I thought this team would have been really fun because they're a team that's kind of on the rise. They just kind of need that #1 option to really score the ball for them because defensively, they're immaculate. Like, they've got that same defensive culture that Memphis used to have. Despite the fact that Chauncey Billups is currently like jail, Chauncey Billups jail, Chauncey Billups gambling, Chauncey Billups face card question mark. They've still maintained a great defensive identity under Tiago's splitter. They've got a bunch of exciting wings. They do have 2 dynamic guards, but I think Scoot Henderson plus Jeremy Grant would get you Ja Morant. It'd get you out of Jeremy Grant's shit contract. It would basically give Memphis a new Ja Morant to build around. I just think culturally it's a bad idea for the Grizzlies, and it forces them to work on this like shortened timeline with Ja instead of Scoot and Shaedon Sharp's really long timelines, which have not been like hampered as much by injuries and the fact that we don't know for sure that they can't shoot yet. Like, we kind of know that Ja Morant can only shoot in like one way. Either way, I think he's too big of a flight risk for this team, who finally has something going for them this season. They're above 500 right now. And this is without Scoot having played a single minute this year. So while it would be fun and while it would sort of expedite just the process of this team going from bad to really good again, I just think it's too much of a risk, and I think I would rather just see them build around Scoot and see if that works. It may be possible that Scoot Henderson never reaches what Ja Morant is right now, but I think the Blazers still have time to see that through. I think for the Grizzlies this would be pretty nice, and maybe you'd even want more assets, but I just don't really see the upside for Portland as much. Next, I got the LA Clippers. This is not one of my favorite fits either, just because, like, what would the Grizzlies do with James Harden? It's James Harden, Stuff, and, like, a first-round pick, Niederhauser. Those are the young assets. If you're going to keep James Harden as the Grizzlies, you're kind of still going to stay mid anyway. You're not getting that many young assets in this one. That doesn't really push you in any one direction. I think rerouting Harden is kind of hard as well, and you don't get that many assets back for him. That would also be just such a pain in the ass for the Grizzlies. And if you keep him, again, you're just kind of mid. But, like, I guess it's not the worst return in the world. He's probably the best, like, individual player that they could, like, reasonably get for Ja Morant right now. I guess what's in it for the Clippers is it looks like this season is starting to, like, they're starting to like fall apart a little bit, and like a lot of the stuff that worked for them last year, it just doesn't really work on this like retirement home. So now that you have a younger star to build around, I mean, I guess that sort of like reorients their timeline. It doesn't put them so much in the basement that all those picks that they owe to other teams are going to become like really, really valuable. But like also another issue is like, I think they'd have a hard time reorienting the roster around a completely new player. It just doesn't really work that well for the Clippers either. It'd be clunky and kind of desperate. Not loving this one for either team, but it could happen. I also think the Milwaukee Bucks are a pretty terrible fit, although they could do it, and if they're really desperate with Giannis, then I guess they could make it happen. It's Ryan Rollins, Kyle Kuzma, Andre Jackson, Gary Harris, and a 2031 top 5 protected first. I actually think this is probably the most reasonable and like balanced package in terms of talent that I came up with for both sides. Ryan Rollins is a decent young player. Andre Jackson is an okay young player. Kyle Kuzma is not quite just dead money, and that pick could be pretty good. I think on average it'll be fine. It'll probably be a late lottery pick or something. I think that's fair value for Ja Morant, a guy who would not fit particularly well next to Giannis, a completely new sort of player next to Giannis. The last time they had a point guard like this next to him was like fucking Eric Bledsoe. And like Eric Bledsoe, Ja Morant's attitude problems, I don't think he'd be like fixing them in Milwaukee. I think the fact that I don't really think that this would fix the Giannis situation. I kind of like that the Bucks have sort of found this really scrappy identity in their backcourt with sort of these 2 point guards just taking turns between Rollins and Anthony, sort of just like carrying the load offensively. And I really like Rollins for them. People are really, really gravitating to him already. Ja Morant is, I just think, too much of a flight risk for a team that is teetering on the edge of disaster with Giannis already. And for the Grizzlies, while I do think this is a decently fair return, I think they could do better in terms of potential. I don't really know what Ryan Rollins' ceiling is. He's probably just going to be like a solid, like starting caliber point guard. I don't know if I see star with him just yet. But in terms of packages for the Grizzlies, they could certainly do worse. In terms of just like interest, you could certainly do worse as well. This would be cool as hell. But it's definitely not the best trade that either team could make. Next, I got the Miami Heat. I mean, this one is obvious. The Heat are in every trade rumor. They're in every trade rumor for every star for eternity, forever. This is kind of what the Heat do. They stay in the middle until they have an opportunity to go get a guy like Ja Morant via trade or via free agency. I think they could get Ja Morant and GG Jackson for Andrew Wiggins, Kel'el Ware, a 26 and 28 first round pick, and you could even protect that 28 first round pick in the the lottery and you could still get both of them. GG Jackson just hasn't really panned out in Memphis now that they've like actually, whenever they try to win, it just doesn't seem like he ever fits into that. And I actually think he could be a decent Heat culture guy. Kel'el Ware, 2 picks, Andrew Wiggins. That seems like a very fair return for the Heat because Kel'el Ware has big time potential. I don't really know how great his fit is with Bam as it is. On paper, in practice, it doesn't really work as well. 2 picks is nice. Andrew Wiggins is not a nothing asset. He's kind of exactly, I think, the perfect salary filler that they'd want because he's kind of at the peak of his powers right now. You could do worse in terms of fit as well. I think the main reason that this one doesn't really work, though, is like, why would Miami want to trade for Ja Morant? In terms of Heat culture, I feel like Ja Morant embodies most of the things that Heat culture isn't. I've been shitting on Ja Morant a lot. Like, don't get me wrong. I like Ja Morant. I think he's really cool. But in terms of just like a really good locker room guy, like, I understand that like Parade Inside My City and whatever, that was cool for the Grizzlies, but I just don't really think it would work as well in Miami. Yeah, I understand that like Tyler Hero is not the most like button up suit and tie kind of player either, but like at least he can play within a system and he'll play within himself. He's never a player that's pouted or gotten pissed off in the media. Ja Morant, I feel like, just takes away so much of the limelight. I kind of like that Miami has built a very intelligent team, and while Ja Morant's a big like talent injection, I just don't really think, I think he'd screw with like the schematics of it too much. And if you want to talk about a team where he just wouldn't fit in their offense, I mean, Jesus Christ, Miami literally copied Memphis's offense, so it would be the same problem for him. So in terms of assets, I think this one maybe makes more sense than any of the other trades, but just in terms of like the fit, not a fan for Miami, like, at all. I just think it would be bad for Ja, it would be bad for the team. But great for Memphis, to be honest. And then these last two are, one of them is wild, one of them I think is actually the best trade that I've come up with so far. The first one is Ja Morant to Phoenix. Now, hear me out on this one. Jalen Green, Oso Ighodaro, 2027 first, which will probably be like the 30th pick in the draft via Utah, Cleveland, or Minnesota, the worst of those 3 picks. That could probably get you Ja Morant. I don't really know what Jalen Green's value is. He looked unbelievable in his Suns debut. He looked like so good that I have, like, right now in this moment, I have more hope for the Suns than I have had since they went to the finals. Oso Ighodaro is just like an alright whatever young player. That pick is kind of nice. Before the season, I would have said that this package was like probably not enough for Ja Morant because Jalen Green is like a nothing asset. He can't hit threes. His game just doesn't really make sense in the modern NBA. He can't even go downhill and hit shots efficiently. But he was so good in his debut. I'm thinking like maybe this works, and if it does work, like maybe the Suns just don't trade him and they let this happen. I just think the main problem with this one is Ja Morant as the second best player on a team is not the worst idea in the world if he were next to like a big, but like if he's gonna play second fiddle to another guard in Devin Booker, I don't think that would be right. I don't really think that makes sense for him. I don't think he'd like that, and I don't really think the Suns would like it either. That would just make it a very clunky fit. There'd be all sorts of problems with that. And again, I don't really think he's the best fit in Phoenix. They've had so much chaos and so many crazy, batshit insane trades like this. The last thing that this front office needs to do is roll the dice, throw it all on red like a 4th time. That's the last thing they need to do. It was risky enough to trade for Jalen Green. To flip him for Ja Morant, like, you'd have to be fucking insane. But like, I guess it'd be kind of cool for the rest of us. If I were a Suns fan, I would hate this though. It would stress me out so much. And then the final trade that I could come up with, the trade that I think is best for Ja Morant, is Ja Morant to the Sacramento Kings for Zach LaVine, Devin Carter, both their rookies, and a 2027 lottery-protected first. The reason I threw in both their rookies is because while I like Nick Clifford and Maxime Reynaud, they don't seem like the highest ceiling guys, especially because Nick Clifford is old. Devin Carter is not a great young asset either. A lottery-protected first is not the best young asset. Zach LaVine is not a very good asset. But like the combination of all these assets, and I guess like the upside of them, maybe you could get a Keon Ellis, maybe you could aggregate all of them and instead get like Keegan Murray, although I don't think the Kings would do that. I think Sacramento does have like a pretty good blend of young players and contracts to make this trade happen. I think they could build like a fun, like frisky team that sits sort of like in the middle and the bottom of the playoffs with Ja Morant right now, because he'd pretty much fit into the slot that De'Aaron Fox filled in a few years ago, or I guess technically last year. Unbelievable that De'Aaron Fox was on the Sacramento Kings within the last calendar year. It would get them out of the Levine contract. It would give the Grizzlies like either like an actually legitimately interesting young player in Keegan Murray, or a bunch of young players who are like maybe good, probably not great, but like this is probably a more like accurate reflection of what you would get in a Ja Morant deal. It's not the best return from the Grizzlies, but it's not the worst. It seems like a pretty decent landing spot for Ja if he's okay with playing on the most boring and unimpressive California team. He would be the star, he would have the keys to the offense, and he would be next to a center rather than a guard. So I don't really think like that would be a conflict of interest. I actually think like a lot of the building blocks kind of work already. Yeah, their defense would probably take a hit from this somehow because they'd probably lose like a few good defensive players, but like I think the Sacramento Kings would actually do this. I think the Grizzlies would heavily consider this offer if they're taking calls on Ja at the moment anyway. And this seems like, to me, I think the best balance between how these two teams could like actually do business. So I think Ja Morant to Sacramento is probably the most likely destination for him if he gets traded, but like if that's what it is, then I just don't think he's getting traded. The Grizzlies can get better returns from these other teams, but the teams that they can get better returns from are teams that aren't really incentivized to trade for Ja. This is really kind of the best that they can do within reason. And like if the best you can do within reason is Zach LaVine and stuff, like just keep Ja Morant. Let him pout. Let him bitch and moan. You're gonna figure this out, or you're gonna trade him in the offseason then probably, and there will be a lot more data at that time. Right now, there's only like 7 teams that even really need a point guard that could actually also make this happen and would want to make this happen. And if Sacramento is your best option, like I'm really not sure like what you're doing at that point. But that's just my take on the Ja Morant trade situation. Let me know what you guys think of Ja Morant and the Memphis Grizzlies and whether or not he should get traded down in the comment section below. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Hopefully the audio wasn't shit, because I didn't test it, and I don't know why I pointed at the camera. Peace.